it's Nicole. Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I am partnering up with Cirque Colors to share their new Over the Rainbow collection. If you are like me and you absolutely love Cirque Colors releases for the month of February, I feel like you're definitely going to love the releases for March. I feel like I was begging and pleading with Cirque to release more Crelly shades, so I am super excited to say the Over the Rainbow collection features 6 brand new Crelly nail polishes. And yes, they do in fact make a rainbow. The Over the Rainbow collection is available right now on the Cirque Colors website, and it is not considered limited edition. If you are new to Crelly formulations, a Crelly nail polish is basically what happens if you took a jelly nail polish and a cream finish nail polish, combine them together. So you get all like the nice squishy vibes of a jelly nail polish, but you have a bit more opacity like a cream. So the Over the Rainbow collection is available right now on the Cirque Colors website. If you would like to pick up anything in this release, as well as anything else on the Cirque Colors website, you can of course use my affiliate code, which is Nicole Loves Nails, to save 10% off the entire website. I greatly appreciate anyone who chooses to use my affiliate code or my affiliate link. All of the products featured in today's video were sent to me by Cirque Colors, and today's video is also sponsored. Thank you so much, Cirque Colors, for sponsoring today's video. I greatly appreciate the support. So as always, in the description box, I will have a link to the Cirque Colors website. I will also have individual links to all of the polishes featured in today's video. And I feel like most importantly, there are timestamps in that description box as well. Let's just get right into this video. For all the polishes in this release, I'm going to build them all up in 3 coats. However, because these are all Crelly nail polishes, you can definitely wear them in 1, 2, or 3 coats. Of course, I'm going to be going in rainbow order, and the first polish up is called Bubblegum Skies. Cirque described this one as a bubblegum pink Crelly nail polish. Bubblegum Skies had a fantastic formula. I found this one applied super easily, very evenly as well, and it self-leveled perfectly. I agree with the brand's color description for the shade. This is very much a bubblegum pink. Even though I went in a little heavy-handed for the live swatch for this one, even when built up in 3 coats on my live swatch nail, I was not able to reach full opacity with this shade. But because these are Crellys, I did not really anticipate that I was going to be able to reach full opacity with them. I feel like this particular shade, you can definitely wear it in 1, 2, or 3 coats. When I was doing my full hand swatches, I was particularly fond of how this one looked on me in 2 coats. And my full hand swatches, I'll be showing this one built up in 3 coats, but I do think this is one of the shades in this release where you can definitely wear this like in 1 coat if you just want like a sheer wash of color on your nail, or kind of just build it up if you want like a little bit more coverage. Because this is a Crelly nail polish, you are not going to be able to reach full opacity with this shade. I went in for a slightly thicker coat accidentally when I was doing my live swatches for this particular polish, and even going with a slightly thicker coat for my first layer, I still was not able to reach full opacity with this shade. I feel like the tone of this polish being kind of like a bubblegum pink, that it really did look kind of like gum almost on the nail in the best way possible. It has that very nice squishy look that I absolutely love in a Crelly shade. And of course, because I was not able to reach full opacity with Bubblegum Skies, I did of course have fairly obvious visible nail line. I do think if you use kind of like a ridge filling base coat with these kind of polishes, you might potentially be able to like hide your nail line a little bit more. If you're unfamiliar with Crelly shades, if you really reach full opacity with them, you kind of lose that kind of squishy look. Like that's the whole point of these shades, so they're not supposed to reach full opacity. My full hand swatches show Bubblegum Skies in 3 coats plus a glossy top coat. Super easy removal. It's a Crelly. The next polish up is called Coral Cloud, and Cirque describes this one as a coral leaning orange Crelly nail polish. Yes, that took a couple of times to say correctly. Coral Cloud also had a fantastic formula. It applied really nicely. I don't know why, but every time I have an orange color that's this kind of like bright vibrancy, I always like, oh, is that creamsicle? It's not creamsicle. I do agree with Cirque's color description calling this one a coral. Coral! I feel like this is a coral that leans orange as opposed to an orange that leans coral. I feel like there is indeed a difference there, and at least in my head there is. I feel like this shade has a bit more saturation to it, and it's not kind of the boring tone of like a pastel-y orange in my personal opinion. I feel like it's a little bit punchier than a standard pastel orange. I feel like this particular tone of orange, it's leaning somewhere between being like a warm tone and a neutral. I didn't find that it was so warm that it made my hands look kind of lobstery. It was just warm enough that I didn't have any issues. As is typical for Crelly shades, I do find for colors that are this light, your best bet is not to really overwork them or go in too heavy-handed. And because this is a Crelly, it of course has that beautiful squishy look, and I did have visible nail line with this particular shade. While Cirque doesn't say this is a pastel neon, I feel like the level of like brightness this particular polish has, I feel like it's going in that direction, in my personal opinion.
You know, that's just my opinion. Everybody got an opinion. Everybody got something to say.
My live swatch and my full hand swatch are so Coral Cloud in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. It's acrylic, so it's of course going to dry down fairly glossy on its own, but why are you walking around without top coat? I don't understand that. Wear a top coat, and removal is going to be super duper easy because it's a Crelly shade. The next polish up is called Lemon Drops, and Cirque is describing this one as a pastel butter yellow Crelly nail polish. I went on a bit of a roller coaster swatching this one out. When I did my full hand swatches, it was easy street, but I really struggled getting this polish to apply evenly while doing my live swatches. Not to any fault of the polish itself, it's just the angle of recording the live swatches and looking at the screen at the same time. For this particular shade, I would still say it had a really good formula. If you're unaware, I generally find that yellows, especially pastel yellows, tend to be the most finicky of all of the colors of nail polish, but I do think that the best way to get even application with this shade is indeed to float your coats on, and you're gonna wanna do minimal brush strokes with this particular shade. I do generally find for colors that are this particular tone and color that is indeed fairly standard. I will fully acknowledge I had a time recording my live swatches for this particular shade. In case you've never noticed when watching my live swatches, there is one side of my nail that when I'm personally recording, I can't see it at all because there are these big old lights in my eyes and just the angle. I can't see the left side of my nail, which I think is gonna be the right side for you guys. So for my live swatches, you'll notice on the first coat, I kind of dig my brush into the polish towards my cuticle line. And when I was recording my live swatches, I was really hoping that by the time I got to my third coat that you wouldn't be able to see that I kind of dug the brush in. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, and you could definitely see where I dug my brush in. My difficulty in doing the live swatch with this shade, I did not have that same experience when I was doing my full hand swatches, so I'm gonna leave the footage in so you can kind of see me on my own little struggle bus. But when I'm doing the finger wiggle, showing all 3 layers for the live swatch for Lemon Drops on my thumb, I did indeed go back and re-swatch it off camera, trying to keep it real, folks. I would say, especially for a yellow Crelly shade, this had a really great formula. You just have to be more mindful when applying it, but again, I do find that pretty standard for colors that look like this. I found that this applied really nicely, self-leveled beautifully as well, and has a really good amount of opacity. So this is definitely a polish that I feel like is a good contender for floating your coats on and not doing too many brush strokes. But if you are like me and our team on overwork all the nail polish, I feel like you might struggle with this shade, so just don't overwork it. Like, you don't have to do that extra brush stroke.
Stop it. Get some help.
I'm a chronic polish overworker. I don't know why, I just do it. I went back and forth trying to decide if I agreed with Cirque's color description for this shade. I'm calling it a butter yellow. I will acknowledge that there are a lot of different tones of butter. I feel like when I'm looking at this, I don't personally see butter. I just see like a pale yellow that leans like a little bit towards not quite beige, but this like has like a smidge of warmth to it. Like, I wouldn't call it a beige, it's definitely a pale yellow. I'm undecided if I agree with calling it butter though. My full hand swatches show Lemon Drops in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. Because this is acrylic, it is of course gonna have a little bit of visible nail line as well as being super easy to remove. The next polish up is called Honeydew, and Cirque is describing this one as a pastel green Crelly nail polish. Honeydew also had a really great formula, but this is another one that I would say do not overwork it. If you overwork this particular shade, it will definitely cause you some issues. This is another shade that I would say if you are a chronic nail polish overworker, be mindful and just do like the 3-stroke method, just like boom, 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 done. Don't do more than that. And again, I feel like this happens a lot with pastel shades in particular. I still would say I absolutely loved how this polish looked. English. Again, I would not say that it's a hard application. I just think it's the kind of application where you just have to be mindful of what you're doing. For my full hand swatches, I had an easy breezy time with this shade, but once again, lights in my eyes, can't see half my nail. So I did have a little bit of difficulty with the live swatch. However, I didn't re-swatch this one after I did the live swatch. Like, I feel like I still did a pretty good job at evening everything out and looking nice. I love the color of this. I feel like the color of this is kind of mint adjacent. It doesn't scream toothpaste to me, but I feel like it's a really nice, soft, minty shade. And just like some of the other colors in this release, I feel like it's just like a little bit more saturated and kind of punchy and doesn't seem like washed out like some pastels are. This is the kind of pastel I can vibe with. My full hand swatches show Honeydew in 3 coats plus glossy top top coat. And again, I did have visible nailing with this shade, but it has a beautiful squishy look that I love from acrylic. I feel like this is gonna make for a very cute St. Patrick's Day nail. Hear me out, y'all. I feel like this paired with some gold, St. Patrick's Day. Come on, somebody do it and tag me. I feel like it's gonna look amazing. This is gonna be super duper easy to remove. I did not personally experience staining, but as always, if you're concerned about that, wear base coat. The next polish up is called Bluebird, and Cirque is describing this one as a sky blue crelly nail polish. So, fun fact actually, originally in my notes, I wrote a little rant about why on earth they call this one Big Bird when it is not in fact yellow. So color me surprised when I realized it is Bluebird and not Big Bird, and goodbye rant. Completely unnecessary rant.
I don't apologize because I never make, mistakes.
Bluebird had a fantastic formula. This is the most opaque crelly out of the bunch. I would say that this one in 3 coats was just shy of being fully opaque. I would put it at like 90, maybe 95% opacity, where the other shades lean between like, I don't know, 65 and 75%. I feel like I'm making it percentages, but I feel like that should help you give a visual. I do agree with the brand's color description for this shade. I feel like this is a very beautiful, springy sky blue. Like, I feel like I see this color a lot, especially this time of year as we're coming closer towards Easter. I found this one applied beautifully, super easily, self-leveled like a dream. And again, you can for sure wear this one in 1, 2, or 3 coats. I feel like for me, for this particular shade for personal wear, because it got so close to full opacity in 3 coats, I feel like I probably would have stopped at this one in 2 coats for my own personal wear, but I still think it looked really great and squishy in 3 coats as well. My full hand swatches show Bluebird in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. And again, this is acrylic, so it dried down fairly glossy on its own. It looks super squishy, even though it is more opaque, and super easy to remove as well. And the final polish from this release is called Wisteria, and Cirque describes this one as a pastel purple crelly nail polish. Wisteria also had a fantastic formula. This applied super easily, super evenly, and self-leveled perfectly. And I once again do agree with Cirque's color description for this shade. To further describe the color of this particular shade, I would describe this one as a cool tone pastel purple. It's a very pale tone purple, but it still has like a bit more saturation, so it doesn't look washed out. It's very kind of punchy. This is another shade that you can definitely wear in 1, 2, or 3 coats. And I also think that even when built up in 3 coats, this one is indeed sheer enough that you could do a jelly sandwich with it, which I guess it would technically be a crelly sandwich then. But you know what I mean. My full hand swatches show Wisteria in 3 coats plus glossy top coat. This does of course have that beautiful squishy look on the nail. It's going to be super duper easy to remove, and it does dry down fairly glossy on its own. All right, let's get into the comparisons. First up for the comparisons, we have Bubblegum Skies. To compare Bubblegum Skies, I pulled out Guayaba Jelly and Peach Jelly right here. I didn't have anything from the Cirque catalog that was in this kind of pink tone, so I pulled out 2 jellies to compare it. I feel like most obviously you can see that Bubblegum Skies has quite a bit more opacity than the other 2 shades. I built all these polishes up in 2 coats, by the way. Bubblegum Skies is quite a bit brighter than these other 2 shades, and I feel like the name implies this has more of like a bubblegum pink coloring to it. Guayaba Jelly and Peach Jelly are both jelly, so they are intentionally sheer and, less opacity than Bubblegum Skies. To compare Coral Clouds, I pulled out Sherbet Jelly. There weren't any orange tone crellies from Cirque, so I just pulled out one of the jellies. I feel like color-wise, you can see that this is more of like a corally orange. I feel like the oranginess of this is definitely pulling a lot stronger next to Sherbet Jelly, which is more corally peachy almost. To compare to Lemon Drops, I pulled out Milk Glass and Citron Jelly. Milk Glass is described from Cirque as being a crelly shade, whereas Citron Jelly is in fact another jelly shade. Milk Glass is more of an off-white than a yellow in my personal opinion. I would say it's yellow toned, but it's more in the white family than a yellow. And I feel like you can see that Lemon Drops is again quite a bit more saturated than this other shade here. And Citron Jelly is again a jelly shade. To compare Honeydew, I pulled out Sweet Mint. This is another crelly in Cirque's lineup. I would say Sweet Mint is quite a bit paler in tone, and this is what I would indeed think of as like a mint color. And then I also pulled out Jade Jelly and Key to Gramercy. Jade Jelly is obviously a jelly shade, and Key to Gramercy is actually a creme finish nail polish, but I thought the color would be kind of similar. It's not similar. Honeydew is again quite a bit more saturated than the other crelly shade, Sweet Mint. And then to compare Bluebird, I pulled out Morningtide and Cherub. I am fairly confident that Cherub is indeed described as a crelly shade. I don't don't think Morning Tide is described as a Crelly shade from Cirque, but I kind of think of it as a Crelly shade. So I feel like between these three shades, we have three different like styles of blue. I would say Cherub is the palest of them all. I could definitely see some people describing Cherub as being kind of a blue toned white as opposed to like a really pale blue. I feel like I would describe Morning Tide as being more in like a classic pale blue. I feel like this is, again, this leans more towards like the periwinkle department. Bluebird is, again, fairly saturated. I'm not sure if it's because it's sitting next to Morning Tide or because it's sitting next to Keys to Gramercy, but I feel like between these two here, it looks like this is leaning more towards like the teal department. This polish is not teal. I just want to make that abundantly clear. I feel like it's just leaning, looking that way because it's next to like a green and then this kind of like periwinkle shade. It is very much a saturated pastel blue. And finally, the comparison that I personally was looking forward to seeing, we have Wisteria and Smitten. So in my personal opinion, Smitten is quite a bit lighter in color than Wisteria. Wisteria is definitely more saturated. I'm not sure if it's getting picked up quite as well on camera, but I feel like Smitten, it leans quite a bit more kind of pinky toned than Wisteria does. Wisteria is quite a bit more saturated than Smitten is. I would say these two shades are indeed similar, but they're definitely not dupes. I feel like they both have a good place in the Cirque lineup. Okie dokie, so final thoughts time. I feel like if you've been around this channel for an extended period of time, you would know I love rainbows. You probably would also know I don't like pastels. You want to hear when Nicole likes a pastel collection? When it makes a frickin' rainbow.
Yeah, boy.
There's just something about a pastel rainbow that makes me be able to vibe with pastels, especially when the pastels are a bit kind of punchier and vibrant. Like, again, the brand did not describe these as being like pastel neons. I wouldn't go so far as to call them, like, definitely call them pastel neons, but they just have like this added saturation and punchiness that doesn't feel kind of washed out. And like that washed outiness is my biggest complaint when it comes to pastels after the formulas. But overall, I was very happy with this release. I giggle snorted when I saw Cirque was releasing more Crelly shades because, again, if you've been paying attention, you would know that I have been wanting Cirque to do more Crellys. Everyone knows Cirque's for their jelly polishes. I want Cirque to also be known for their Crelly polishes. I feel like the Crellys are super fun, and especially for those of you who are like me and not super like nail arty, I feel like Crellys are even easier. I feel like the big difference between Crellys and jellies, in my personal opinion, is because the Crelly has so much more opacity than a jelly shade. I feel like it really opens you up to being able to just wear it as like a regular manicure and not feel like your nail looks like bare, you know? That's why I like Crellys personally, because like I love the squishy look on the nail. I love how they look paired with toppers. They just like a nice, beautiful look. So yeah, I am super duper happy about this release, in case you couldn't tell. Not that anyone at Cirque is taking my personal opinion on like what polishes they should be releasing, but okay, hear me out, because I know since Cirque is definitely watching this video, I got an idea and I feel like you guys might like this. How about for every season, we do one rainbow collection of like seasonally appropriate rainbows in the Crelly formula for every season of the year. Come on, I feel like the people want that, and by the people I mean me, but I feel like other people besides me would like it. I'm onto something there. As far as my own personal top picks from this particular release, my top pick is gonna be Bubblegum Skies. It's pink. Like, come on. Duh, I'm picking the pink. Bluebird is gonna be my second top pick from this release. Even though I'm not generally the kind of person who really like loves pastel blues, I'm making an exception for this one. As far as pricing and sale information goes, the Over the Rainbow collection is available right now on the Cirque Colors website. Cirque prices all of their Crelly nail polishes at $12.50 each. There will be a special bundle available on launch that features all 6 polishes for a 10% discount. But if you just want the 10% discount and you don't want to get all of the polishes, you can of course use my affiliate code, which is Nicole Loves Nails, to save 10% off the entire website. I would love to know what everyone else thought of this release. Are you planning on picking it up? Have you already picked it up? What are your thoughts on Crellys? And I feel like there's only one correct answer in thoughts on Crellys, but I will allow all answers because I will be fair today. And again, this release is not considered limited edition. Before we end today's video, I want to give a very special shout out to my channel members. Shenanigans, Story Fans, Redeems, of course, all on the screen right now. If you would like to sign up for my channel memberships, there is a link for that in the description box. Or of course, you can click join next to the subscribe button. But most importantly, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a big ol' like, hype up the video if you have access to that feature, and also leave me a comment and let me know what you think of pastels. I tried to explain to someone the other day that even though though I don't personally like love pastels, I love me a pastel rainbow and they didn't get that, I feel like it makes sense. So let me know if you all think it makes sense, because I feel like it makes sense. Like, it's a rainbow. How do you not like a rainbow? Rainbows are happiness. So just thank you all for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely week, folks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Quarrel, 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 quarrel.
When I get high, I ain't looking at the clock, still ballin' like Brian. Yeah, I'm headed to the Bucks, then I'm ballin' like yeah.